Hello everyone, Rurikhan here coming at you with another video, and today we're going to be talking about my hands-on experience with Lords of the Fallen while I was at Gamescom. So while I was out there, they actually allowed me to play the game, and I really enjoyed it. As you guys probably noticed, because the day that I played the game, I went on to Twitter and Facebook, and I essentially just posted there that I think people are really going to enjoy Lords of the Fallen. At least that was my impressions from the hands-on time that I had with it. So for starters, let's go into a couple of details. The build that I was playing with was running on a PC, so everything that I'm about to say is based around the PC version. Bear that in mind. I don't believe they were running any versions on consoles on the room that I was in when I went there to interview Jan Klose and check out the game. So this is all going to be about the PC version. Just bear that in mind. So the game looked really solid. It was running at upwards of 60 frames throughout the entire duration of my play session. Never really tanked, so to speak. I did, however, manage to crash the game one time, which was pretty cool, but obviously beta is beta and such things are to be expected. That was actually, I don't even think that's beta. That's probably like alpha or something. I don't know. But anyways, in terms of visuals, the art style is something that I really enjoyed in Lords of the Fallen. It reminded me a lot of Darksiders 2 art style, except a lot more gritty and realistic and a little bit less cartoony. But I definitely really enjoyed it. So the graphics looked really sharp. The art style looks incredibly solid. I really like it. The frame rate was steady, upwards of 60 every single second that I was playing it. And the animation work is also straight up solid. Really enjoyed the animation work of what they're doing with that game. And you guys know that I'm more about animations than necessarily graphics. So I really enjoyed pretty much everything that I saw in terms of visual fidelity. In terms of sounds, it was also looking pretty good. I can't really comment too much on the sounds because it's just one of those things that when you're in a hurry in a trade show and whatnot, it just seems that sounds are the things that don't really stick out as much. But they were pretty solid, so there's that. Now let's get really into the nitty-gritty of things and talk about the gameplay. So the combat feels really heavy and impactful, and what I mean by that is that you actually feel the weight of the weapons as you are performing each of your attacks. Some of the animations on these weapons are actually going to be really long, so you have to really commit to those animations. I would have to say that you have to really know the movesets of the weapons that you're using, because you are committing a lot more than you would in a game like, for instance, Dark Souls, which I know that a lot of people are going to want me to kind of compare Lords of the Fallen with Dark Souls, although it is not my favorite thing to do. But sure, for the sake of argument, I'll do it this one time. But yeah, you definitely commit to animations even more so than Dark Souls, in case you guys were curious about that. What do I mean by commit to animations? It's like once you start your attack animation, you're committed. It's like there's no canceling out of it. You just have to go with it and pray to God that everything goes okay, which is why it is so necessary for you to really know the movesets of your weapons, so that you know exactly how your attacks are going to play out, and that you know kind of like the reach that your weapon has, so that you know if you are going to hit your enemy or not, because if not, you're going to be left exposed for quite a bit, and you're going to be punished for it. Because let me tell you, you are definitely going to be punished for every single mistake you make here. Like, you guys might be wondering how hard the game is, right? Right now, that's something that's in a lot of people's minds. Like, how hard is the game actually going to be? And something that Jan Klose said in my interview was essentially, this game only has one difficulty: difficult. And that's it. And I know that a lot of people are instantly like, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. But let me tell you, it is exactly the way that he is saying. Because when I first got started, like for the demo that they had, you get started, you're on this long pathway. It's almost like a bridge. It's just like this long pathway, and there's one enemy in the way, right? And you're thinking like, okay, so this is a press demo. I'm probably going to go over there to that enemy. Your character's looking like this completely beefed up, badass, just chuck full in heavy armor. I mean, depending on the character that you choose. I chose a cleric, so he was just like chuck full heavy armor, this really big staff to just beat people with. So I'm just like, I'm going to go over there, completely wail that guy. Instantly died. Instantly got there, got instantly killed by that one monster, the first monster in the demo. Then I proceeded to die like 3 or 4 more times. And I never really felt like, oh, this is kind of unfair because of this. I just felt like, oh, okay, I didn't dodge properly there, or I mistimed my dodge, or I mistimed my attack. Like, mistakes were made, essentially, is what I felt as I was going through and facing off against that enemy. And it was definitely refreshing to see a game that is not afraid to pull its punches in front of the press, because these days a lot of titles, like, you'll go up to a demo and you'll just like completely obliterate everything that's in your path, simply because it's like, oh, this is a press demo, it's so that you can see the content. Whereas these guys are like, nah, fuck that. You got a lot of time to play. They wouldn't mind. Like, they had a ton of stations there for people to play. So they're like, you want to stay an hour there and play? Go ahead. It's up to you. You're a better judge of your time than we are. So I just thought it was really amazing that you got up there, you got instantly killed, and you're like, okay, I can see what the tone is being set here. And until you figured out the mechanic of how that particular monster worked, you would be dying constantly, because the monster would actually, like, you would be damn near killing him, and he would just like regenerate, because you had to do something particularly, you had to do something special in order to actually kill that particular monster, which I thought was pretty cool. And I'm not going to spoil to you guys what the mechanic was. So we talked about the weapons. We talked about the monster that killed me multiple times. Let's talk about dodging. So there's definitely dodging in the game. You guys probably seen that in some of the gameplay videos that have been released. I can confirm that dodging definitely has invincibility frames, because I thoroughly tested it. However, I'm not entirely sure what's up with those invincibility frames when you dodge into your enemy, because as you guys know, in games like Dark Souls, you can actually keep dodging into your enemy if you take advantage of the invincibility frames, and you will still not get hit. But in this title, it seems like if you're dodging towards your enemy, for some reason, I was never really able to make use of the invincibility frames when dodging into my enemy. Like, I would always get hit. So dodging sideways, sure, you got invincibility frames there. For sure you have those, because I've dodged some stuff that I've seen, like the blade come right through me. So, but dodging into your enemies might not work 100% of the time. Something else that is very, very important is you cannot block everything. And what I mean by this is sometimes you can't block monsters that don't even look that important. Like that first monster that I saw that killed me a bunch of times, he didn't seem like he was this very meaningful opponent or anything. So I tried blocking him, like one swing for starters, it would go through the shield and deal a little bit of damage on me, and then it would just like completely eat through my stamina. Also, while we're on the topic of stamina, let me just tell you that stamina is even more important, because it seems you don't get as much of it, or it seems that probably the amount of armor that you have equipped might have some kind of influence there, because most of the time I was playing with heavy armor. So there is definitely that. Now, when we're talking about blocking, something that I noticed is that at some point as I was playing through the demo that they had there, I two-handed my weapon, and when you two-hand your weapon and you happen to have a shield, your shield goes in your back. And when I did that, I want to say that I was attacking this enemy and these dogs came from behind. They attacked me. And I want to say that the fact that I had the shield on my back blocked those attacks. But I'm not 100% sure if that is the case, because I later came back there and I asked one of the guys, the community manager, if that was the case, like if having the shield on your back would actually block attacks from behind. And he said he thought it did, but he couldn't really confirm it, so I still had to shoot out an email. I'm still waiting for a reply on that. But by the time you watch this video, it is possible that I've already received that reply, so I might put an annotation somewhere indicating yes or no, the shields on your back do block damage, or no, shields on your back do not block damage. So if you don't have your response yet, you might check out the video later on, and the response might be here if you're that curious about it. I did a couple of backstabs, so there's definitely backstabs in the title. Those were pretty satisfying. The backstabs that I did were with a staff, so there was this really wickedly cool animation of you just like stabbing the guy in the back and then like doing this spinning attack while he's just like stunned from being stabbed in the back. It's pretty cool. Let me check out my notes here. There is definitely a big emphasis on dueling, so they're not going to throw like 5, 6 enemies at you at one time. Usually I think the most enemies I fought simultaneously was like 3, maybe 2. I'm not 100% sure. And those are a lot harder than just fighting one-on-one. So they want to put emphasis on you actually doing these fights as duels so that every enemy can pose a significant challenge as opposed to you just like killing hordes and hordes of enemies. So for those of you that are fearing that this is going to become some kind of a hack and slashy type Dark Souls, that's not going to be the case. You are not going to be comboing your way through 100 enemies at once. I can confirm you that, because with the demo that I was playing, it was hard enough fighting one enemy at a time, let alone having to fight like 5 or 6 or whatever. I don't think there's ever going to be more than 4 enemies on screen. And if there's 4 enemies on screen, either you messed up or those enemies are probably slightly weaker or something. I don't know, because there is definitely a huge emphasis on duels, and they say it themselves whenever they talk about the game. They prefer that you take your time as you're going through the game, study your enemies, figure out their weaknesses, and just exploit those in order to vanquish your foes, obviously. So in terms of controls, there was also a jumping attack, which involves you pressing both triggers at the same time. The left trigger was a kick. If you were two-handing, the kick would obviously guard break if your enemies happen to be using shields. But not only that, it was also used for something else. Like during a boss fight that I did while I was there, the kicking mechanic was also used for you to break down a couple of braziers. I'm not sure how you even say that. I always say that thing wrong. Braziers, I don't know. The things with the fire on them. So yeah, it was the kicking mechanic was used to kicking those things down, which would have a certain influence in that particular boss fight. I'm not going to give it too much details because, again, I don't want to spoil people. There are also shield slams. You can essentially shield slam someone. I think it's supposed to work kind of like a parry, but I didn't get to experiment too much with parry mechanics. There's also, if you're using like a tower shield, you can essentially like set your shield down so that you will be able to block almost anything. And I thought that was a really cool mechanic because when you know there's a really big attack incoming, you can essentially like, you set your shield down and like stab it onto the ground, and your enemy is just going to be beating on your shield for a while, and you're going to be able to take less stamina damage, so to speak, from attacks while your shield is in that state. That is both the setting the shield down as well as shield slamming is done with the left trigger. And if you happen to be dual wielding, which I didn't play that much, as a matter of fact, I don't think I dual wielded at all. I think that the left trigger is also going to do some kind of a special attack for dual wielding. In terms of magic, because the game definitely has magic, I've heard reports that magic is overpowered. I don't really know if that is the case or not, because as you guys know, I'm not a big magic user, so I didn't really test out magic all that much. But I definitely heard that people used magic on the show floor and that they thought the game was really easy when you used magic. I used some magic. As a matter of fact, I figured out a spell that actually glitched one of the bosses. And so I just killed the boss by using that spell. But obviously that's not going to work in the final version. At least I'm hoping it's not going to work in the final version. But magic just felt kind of cumbersome, to be honest. I mean, I don't think you're ever really going to make a pure mage in this game, even though players have said, oh, magic makes it so easy. They specifically stated that they do not want people to just go through the game with magic. They do not want people to get to the point where they can just like kill everyone before everyone actually gets to you. So you are definitely going to have to engage in close quarters combat, whether you like it or not. So if you don't like melee combat, maybe this title is not for you. If you are planning on making a pure mage, I don't think that's going to happen. And if it does happen, it is not intended by the developers, so it will probably be patched out at some point. I asked about multiplayer. They currently don't have any plans for multiplayer. You guys probably saw that on the interview that is up on the channel. There's also some bonuses for you not cashing in your experience too early at checkpoints. And the way this works is as you play through the game, you gain these experience points. When you get to a checkpoint, you essentially get to bank those experience points. You get to use those experience points. You get to, you get to spend your experience points, so to speak. Either spend them or bank them at the checkpoint so that you don't lose them in case you die. However, if instead of doing that, you decide to keep on going without banking your experience points, they become more valuable, which I'm not exactly sure what that means. That's what he told me. The experience points become more valuable, and supposedly you're going to gain increased amounts of experience points by taking that chance. So there's definitely a little bit of risk and reward going there. As a matter of fact, it seemed like the whole thing, like the theme when I had the conversation with them, the theme of the game is that they want to reward you for taking risks. If you take more risks, you're going to get additional rewards. Like, for instance, something that they told me that they want to implement some mechanics on is if you defeat a certain boss without using magic or without using mechanics that will make the fight easier, because some bosses will have maybe some environmental mechanics that make fights easier, which was the case in this demo, but I don't want to go into too much details about the environmental mechanics that made that particular fight easy. But definitely some bosses will have some of those mechanics, and if you defeat the boss without using those mechanics and without using magic, you might get additional loot from that particular boss. Again, rewarding you for taking risks, for taking the more difficult approach, which I find is really, really cool. I was really happy with the stuff that I saw of the game. I'm just going through my notes. For some reason, I have the notes that I died on the first monster at the end of the document, but whatever. When I was interviewing Jan Klose, this stuff that I put here, I just thought was really cool. When I was interviewing him, I was listening to this guy who was playing like right to my left, and the guy was going like, just like friggin' huffing and puffing and just like all pissed off. And at some point, I even heard him like, he threw the control a little bit gently, but he totally just threw the control. He was like, shit. I'm not sure if you guys can hear that in the interview, but I just thought that was just so cool. Also something that I would like to talk about, which was also mentioned in the interview, I guess, is the fact that the game is going to have a New Game Plus. And the New Game Plus is actually going to allow you to like mix and match different classes, which I thought was really cool. So this is not something that I got to experience, but like, let's say you get 3 choices of classes, if I'm not mistaken. So you get to be not a mage. You get to be a rogue, a cleric, or a warrior. And once you go through the game as one of the classes, each of these classes essentially has different spells that they can use, is what I'm told. And once you go through the game with one of those classes, you can then choose another class in New Game Plus. So you essentially can combine, like, let's say you can make a warrior rogue or a warrior mage, not mage, damn it, I keep saying mage, or a warrior cleric or a rogue cleric, whatever. You can make those combinations if you so desire. And the interesting thing is that he said certain areas you will only be able to access with certain classes. So let's say you go through the entire game as a warrior, there might be some areas that you can't access as a warrior. And so when you go into New Game Plus and you gain the abilities of one of the other classes, you can then go to those areas and explore those areas. So that is definitely something that is going to encourage replayability. But overall, those are my feelings on the title. I'm really excited, and I just can't wait to get my hands on it. What do you guys think about Lords of the Fallen? Leave me your comments, feedback, all that kinds of good stuff in the comment section below. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.